Welcome to the Valley of Outlaws podcast, a podcast for those looking to take the road less trodden, and a podcast for those seeking more. Rachel Tooth, you are Outlaw number 33, which is, my numbers are racking up higher. I'm very proud, but you are number 33, so welcome to the Valley of Outlaws podcast.
33 is a pretty good number.
It's a great number.
Yeah.
And we are here at your latest exhibition in Notting Hill, and it looks spectacular. How are you feeling about it?
Well, pretty good.
Yeah?
Felt pretty good after it was hung yesterday. Your help, Mikey the Brave. Yeah, it's lovely, and we're so lucky. The sun is just shining through and making everything sparkle.
Exactly. Well, today, we're going to talk a little bit about your journey as an artist. We're going to hope, well, we want people to walk in, but we're going to hope no one walks in during this episode. Yeah. And hopefully we'll be able to understand how you got to painting to this level and in this style, and hopefully it will inspire other people to do the same. So I always ask my guests the same question, the first one, which is in your own words. Tell me who you are, what you do, and why do you do what you do?
I'm Rachel Tooth. I'm a painter. I've been painting on canvases for about 25 years now. But before that, I used to paint walls, interiors, specialist decorating and murals, which I think kind of led me into wanting to paint big on canvases. And I think in 2020, I picked up a palette knife and some paints, and that was it. And I always wanted to paint really, really abstract, not anything like I'm painting at the moment, though I hope though they're floral, they're still abstract. Yeah, so I mean, I started really abstract, and every year, after every exhibition, something changed, and different feelings came out. And why do I do it? Don't know. Got to paint.
Got to pay the bills.
Get up every morning and think, right, get into the painting room.
Was it something you always had that creative urge to do when you were younger?
I think so. I mean, Mummy used to paint. She went to Hornsey School, I think around 47. I think I've got one of her paintings from there. And she always sort of encouraged it. So I always sort of got the names of the colours, stuff from her. And I think when she and David actually suggested I did a course in, what do you call it, specialist decorating, you had to get your hands dirty. And once you start doing that, it doesn't really matter, as long as you're wearing the right clothes and you've got a space that you don't care about making dirty. And then I think I used to do very abstract paintings, and though I liked them, I never thought they were beautiful. And I felt like a lot of people wanted more beauty on their walls. And that kind of started me doing slightly softer. And then I started to use a brush, which allowed me to be a bit more fluid. I think that's kind of probably the best. That's. I think with the knife, it all had to be quite angular because it was all cutting in. And I look back at some of the old paintings I made and think, well, maybe I should do that again, but maybe not.
And when you were like at school, was the kind of creative artist, decorating, that kind of thing, an area you always thought you'd want to go into? Like, what was your kind of like vision for yourself?
Well, art at school. In fact, I had a great art teacher when we moved back to England from Sri Lanka. We moved to Brighton for a while, and there was a wonderful art teacher at Van Dien School for Girls, where I was for a couple of years. And she actually inspired me in all sorts of ways, pottery and, painting. The unfortunate thing is halfway through my O-level, I panicked and I didn't like what I was making, and I had to rush home and completely change it, which she was quite calm about. I did pass, just. Good.
And was it kind of like as you grew up, into your late teens and 20s, was that something which you thought it was something which was going to be a big part of your life? Or?
Not really, no. I mean, painting was what Mummy did. And I mean, I loved going to exhibitions with her and stuff. But I think when I had to go to college and do a secretarial course for various reasons, because I had to go out and work.
Yeah.
I'd like to have done archaeology and Italian, perhaps.
What was it about archaeology you liked?
Oh, I don't know. I love ruins. I love old bones and you know Egyptology and stuff like that. And geology, actually, I like geology quite a lot. Give me a good stare, and I'm very happy. So and then I had to go out and be a secretary, and that was a very boring life. And I think finally after I was offered a job, it would have been a very good secretarial job in somebody in property development, but David and Mummy said, no, do this course. And that kind of just literally took me on a completely different path, because whether it was house paint, painting houses. Yeah. But I think it was when I started murals, I really had to sort of find a slightly inner something to push me into, things like Italianate gardens with stone sculptures of vases and urns and stuff. I think that was that. And then I did a lot of interior design, and you know what? It's not an easy job to do. The kind of people you have to deal with some of the time. Started painting, and though I was doing a bit of interior design at the time, I kind of mixed it. Whenever I had a bit of a break, the bills at Russell and Chapel went up and up.
How much of an inspiration were your mum and dad as well, in terms of, I know they were very creative and...
Well, they both, Daddy, he used to draw quite a lot. He liked to draw. He was very into ornithology, and he drew a lot of birds and stuff. But Mummy, I remember Mum, struggling. She was painting watercolor, which is probably the hardest medium, I think. And actually, she did start in oils, but no, watercolor was mainly her thing. Yeah. And it was interesting to see how she really got so into it. She'd have to come down to all the exhibitions, and she became part of artist societies up in Hertfordshire. Yeah. And went on a wonderful trip to India with, oh goodness, John Ward, I think it was. Which, everything became about painting.
Is that when she did the red fort paintings?
Yeah.
Like that? Okay.
Yes, that's where that came from, and the Taj Mahal.
So when you decided to, I guess, move into the full-time artist thing?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. When I was sort of playing around, that's probably was at the time, I was just trying to make something happen with, make a good painting. And I met a lady locally in Acton who ran a little gallery down there. What was it called? I can't remember right now. Brain is gone. Anyway, she came to see some, she saw one or two which I'd taken round, and she said, I'd love to hang a couple. And she came around to see what I had, and she said, actually, I think you should have your own show. So that was Trackside Gallery. That's what it was. Wow. And so I did. So I think I had my first show with her was in 2002 or 2003, and then I sort of did one almost every year, and then. Was
that part-time going into that, or was that something which you
it was
painting full-time?
No, because I was still doing interiors at the time, and getting a lot more joy out of the painting. Yeah. And I think the more I did, and then I started to make them bigger, and I needed to find a space that was a little bit bigger. And they grew and they grew. Some of them stayed small, but there's something wonderful. You can be a lot braver on a large canvas, and in a funny way more abstract too. Because I find on some of the small ones I get into cornered by the detail.
I feel like you have a more of a natural body movement on a larger canvas.
Yeah, and you can just you go. Get the paint on your brush. It's like, in fact, but I think it's quite funny because I do put a lot of energy into these ones, and then I like to do the slightly stiller, quieter ones, like those around the corner, which give me They're much more focused. They're building up layers very gently, and then the final thing is the day that you pick up your courage to make the marks with the palette knife on it. But
what was it like building up then while doing part-time interior design of this? Like, what was the point where you went, right, I'm not going to do the interior design anymore, I'm going to focus fully on this?
I think I was asked to do things, jobs that I really couldn't be bothered to do. For also sometimes people, they didn't really want to pay an awful lot for that sort of thing. And then a lot of them, they'd ask you, what do you want? You'd put in a whole scheme and they'd say, but I like this and I like this. And you feel like saying, might as well do it yourself.
Exactly.
Isn't it? It's very difficult because I'm especially when I'm quite tuned into colour and textures and stuff, and and when people sort of say something that's completely alien, just really didn't see much point pursuing it.
How much do you think interior design influenced you in the way you paint and the way you see things and portray? I know you do abstract, but you see colours and layers and stuff. How much does interior design inspire that?
The good question, actually, because I do like to paint something that I think would do well, would be nice in a room, that would pull a room together and add softness or colour, or some of the people I work with, they ask me, what they show me a room and say, what paintings would you put in here? Have you got anything to go? And actually, I don't want to paint to suit a room, but it's a happy coincidence when a painting does suit a room. I think when I want to put something in my house, I look at the colours. But interesting, the one really enjoyable commission that I had a couple of years ago, was it a couple of years? Yeah, time is flying, was for a lovely client who is an interior designer and his partner, and I'd worked with him on a commission for another job, one of his jobs, and they came to my shows to try and find something that suited, and there were a couple they were umming and ahhing, but in the end they said, could you make us one that's personal to us? And so that was an interesting, so that threw me. So talking about changing styles of painting, I don't believe in having to stick to a style, but I feel like I've maybe found a place. In fact, there was a lovely lady, Isabel, who's the principal of Hampstead School of Art. I think she came to see my work last year, and she said, I think you found your voice. And that made me feel like, gave me a lot of courage.
Has it given you more courage to push yourself further and try new things, knowing that actually your experience and your eye and your, I guess, knowledge of how to use the medium you can do it in the right way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I have to learn that my work is a kind of process. I think I start and I have an idea in mind. Even with the commission that I made, I'd done a whole load of research into Baroque. I sort of knew the things he liked. So I looked at a lot of Baroque and Rococo stuff just to give the depth and so I came up with some ideas and they loved it. But I didn't let them see it for months because I showed them little snippets and they they went with it. But I remember thinking, I'm going to have to take this canvas off. In fact, it was linen, and replace it because I'm really messing this up. Really, this is not going to be, I can't resolve it. But then actually it was really funny because I was so frustrated by it. And one Sunday morning, I was supposed to be going with my daughter to Westfield at 12 o'clock. And I got out of bed at about 7. And something clicked. And this is what sometimes happens when you resolve a painting. This one has been through so many configurations until finally, a few marks later, bang, now you're done. You're giving me my energy back. And anyway, that morning, I completely sussed it because I sort of the basic of it. Oh, who was it? Can't find his name right now.
It's okay.
It comes when you get to my age. Things will come back about 5 minutes later.
Of course.
and they absolutely loved it.
Yeah. I mean,
so in a way, I contributed to the interiors without having to be the person running around doing that.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a big element of, I think as an artist, you express the world you see through your eyes and your mind. And I think your experiences up till now really dictate as well how you, importantly, probably how you start. Like, how do you approach a big square blank canvas? Like, to a lot of people, a blank canvas is quite daunting.
Yeah.
But to maybe you and me, it's quite exciting.
It is. And it's funny because it takes guts, though, to make that first mark. But actually, sometimes it's quite good just to do anything and then see what you can make from it. Though most of the time, I start off with the colour idea. And there are definitely certain shapes of canvas that are harder to paint.
Okay, what's the hardest?
I think really long landscapes.
Yeah, okay.
But funnily enough, this one's 170.
Yeah.
By 120s, but he's got enough depth in him.
Yeah. The long, thin ones are tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But actually, some of the best work I've done have been on long, skinny ones. So.
Well, it shows the point that actually putting yourself outside your comfort zone of what you think is good or hard, that it makes you focus more probably to achieve slightly more, doesn't it? But
Come in.
No, I don't want to. Do you think that your painting style reflects your personality?
Good question. Never thought about that.
I think it does.
Do you?
From what you just said there, how you want to be brave to make the first marks and you see what happens when you go with the flow.
Yeah.
I think it's very similar to the way you approach things. Even like approaching for us doing this podcast now, it's scary for you, but we're sitting here and we're going to see what happens.
What am I doing here in front of a camera?
But also doing exhibitions and speaking and stuff like that. All things which you feel uncomfortable, but you still take the leap to do it.
Yeah. I know, I have to say, it's sometimes I think, why do I think I can do this?
Do you think you suffer with imposter syndrome?
Oh, absolutely.
But even when
I did, even when I was
even when you get a commission?
Yes, I think, in fact, a lot of people, somebody asked me the other day, where did you study art? I didn't. I have taught myself. I have bought probably every different medium and paint and discovered that I like clothes. I like the most expensive. Can't always have them, but with paint, I will always buy the most expensive.
Yeah.
And that makes a difference to colour. And, I think Michael Harding's pigments and Old Holland, they, like the cobalt blue in that one, mixed with a bit of ultramarine, they just sort of shine. You can buy a cheaper version. It might look the same, but it doesn't really. You put them side by side. So, are my paintings like my personality? Well, that floral, but no, they won't. I don't think I'll.
I think it's in your
stay
style
floral?
of painting.
Yeah. Will I always paint? I think I love. I think there are things that I love when I allow them to be abstract enough, so I can also make tulips seem smaller than crocuses and stuff. I like it doesn't really matter about the scale of a flower versus another flower. But like this bottom one here, I love it because you could see it's a flower, but it's also so abstract that, and it's the colour and the layers in the background that kind of allow it to be what he is. But it will probably, I think after every exhibition, there's a small amount of evolving happens, and you take, something, you think, let's push it this way. And was that one over there? He gives me a lot of joy, just probably the colours. I love, seeing the sunshine through the sort of water.
How do you, going back to like the imposter syndrome and the fear of it, how do you push yourself to overcome that?
So I've got to prove that I can do it. A bit like that commission.
Yeah.
I nearly, it's a bit like actually when I was doing a hallway in Connaught Square, which is, they're quite big houses there. And the commission had been to do like a colonnaded entrance with a lot of stonework around, and with a keystone and arches. So a lot of working out of.
Yeah.
And of course, the painting was not a problem, but the maths was to work out.
Yeah.
And the client said to me, don't worry if you can't do it, because he'd given me some other jobs before.
Yeah.
He'd asked me if I could do it. And it was like, I didn't know if I could, but I didn't know unless I tried that I really couldn't.
Yeah.
And they were thrilled.
Yeah.
But the hardest bit was doing the maths.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a quote which came to my mind when you were talking, which was a guy, Alex Hormozy, which says, you have to, I'm going to paraphrase it incorrectly, but it's basically, if you create enough moments of evidence to prove who you think you are, you're going to have more evidence to get to actually show the world that you are that person and show yourself that person. And so doing things again and again and again is the way to overcome doubts and self-fears and stuff like that as a way of doing it.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think also I kind of like to prove to my kids that I can do this.
Okay, why?
Oh, I don't know, because they get such a lot of pleasure when I do something.
Yeah. As inspiring mother, the super mother.
Oh, super mother, yes. Super elf, I think I'm called.
No. Okay. What is your favourite part of the process of creating these pieces?
I think it's when I've made a few marks, I think it's when I recognise that it's working.
Okay. So is that a feeling?
It's a feeling. It's definitely a feeling. It's a bit like, I don't know, I think I've told this to quite a few people because it's one of the moments. I remember taking the girls to the Victoria and Albert when they were quite young. And there was a great exhibition, I don't remember his name, but contemporary Chinese artist. And they weren't, typically Chinese paintings, but they were typically Chinese colours and very free. And there was a translation of what he'd written in a book in one of the glass boxes. And he said, you approach the canvas, this empty canvas, with trepidation and anxiety and not fear, but, anticipation. And you put all your energy into it for however long it takes. And when you know it's done and it knows it's done, it gives you all the energy back.
Wow.
And I think
that is so true.
That's exactly what.
That is so true.
I think I feel when you got to the point, I said, that's it.
It reflects it back to you.
Yeah.
That's a very beautiful
I feel
way of seeing
when
it.
I finish like that one, he was quite difficult to resolve. And he looks quite sort of, but I was trying to make myself paint more roughly. And I kind of want to be more, throw it on and it looks like something, but also looks what's the word I'm looking for? Unintentional.
Unintentional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And every time I finish one, I actually feel, kind of like a rush of adrenaline or something.
Yeah.
And
excitement.
when I get to the point where I know, once it's dried, it's going to be varnished, do not touch. It's like it's got a message saying, don't touch me again, or you're going to F it up.
Yeah. And is that a skill which you've developed over the years, or has that always been part
it's
there for
just a
you?
recognition when you know it's done.
Yeah, and trusting your instincts.
It's a bit like cooking, really, isn't it?
How instinctive do you have to be as an artist then?
Completely.
Yeah.
I mean, with colours and things. Take for example, that one. I'd got the basic stuff about it, but the top, see that white flower thing in the middle?
Yeah.
And all that darkness around it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to make it all softened down, but I knew it needed to be spiky and, darker and show off the white a bit more. So as you're making something, you realise what needs to be put behind a colour to make it come out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, for example, little things, little touches, contrast against that, contrast, little hot spikes of orange just to say, hello, I'm here.
Yeah.
And, just funny little lines. I mean, this one I almost wanted to call, and it's probably not French at all, printemps, racine de printemps or something, spring roots or roots of spring, but in the end, I couldn't really find another name, so he's now called Spring Fever. Also, because I wasn't sure that my French was good enough to really call it that.
What do you reckon your biggest learning curve has been as an artist?
I would say learning to not doubt myself. It's quite easy to do that because there's so many good artists around. And in a way, comparison is the worst thing you can
Comparison is
do.
a thief of joy.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, when you've got Instagram, oh my gosh, flooded with things, and you sort of think, oh, I want to paint like that. Oh, I want to paint like that. And actually, even if you tried to paint like somebody else, you really can't, or I can't, because everything. I think the way you hold a brush or the way you handle a brush is like it's like a signature, or it's your own mark. And I mean, I'm sure, can people paint like me? I don't know. I mean, sometimes I think a painting's finished and I think, I know, it's like in that little card one there, which is called Field of Pink Trees, funnily enough. It wasn't going to have the treetops on it, with the pink on it, but it needed it. And it got it. But, yeah, I think everything is instinctive unless you're painting by numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, the one behind you, heaven knows what he was intended to be, but he decided he needed to be a rather moody night in Marrakesh.
Yeah. No, I get that. And have you ever had like a piece or a commission where you've done it and you've like learned from it and it kind of informed you never to do that again?
I think more I've been informed by mistakes I've made.
Okay.
Not actually, funny enough, not to ever do it again, but to do it more.
Okay, you said this yesterday actually while we were here. So all your mistakes have informed the way you paint now. So
yeah, and I will often try and repeat them. Not always that easy, because sometimes it's you slipped or something, and it's But I learned a lot from the things that I wasn't intending to do before.
Do you think that you can ever fail as an artist?
It depends what you call failure. If it's money you want, and that's it, you might not get as much as you'd like. But I think so long as you keep making things that make you happy and you've got enough room to store them, you're not really failing. But
that's true.
But I guess you have to persevere.
Yeah. I
mean, Isabel again, who my fount of knowledge, she says to me, I can't believe that you paint she said, it's really good that you paint every day. And I think there are times, especially in the summer, when we're on holiday and stuff, and I don't paint for a while, I do find it quite hard to get back into it again. It's like remembering your brush.
A bit of oil in the system to keep the thing moving.
Yeah, exactly. And also, once you've figured out something, you can do it again.
Yeah.
I mean, I found it quite hard doing this because I've also got another show straight after.
Yeah.
And I've put a little bit too much pressure on. I've ruined 3 paint, and that for me is quite a failure. If I'd had more time, I probably would have been able to resolve them calmly.
Yeah.
And in fact, I panicked with one of them because linen is so expensive now.
Yeah.
And on a big canvas this size, it's a waste if you don't use it. So I stripped it back a bit and resized it. And so it exists no longer for me to even try to resolve it. Yeah.
I mean, the reason I asked about failure is because, and I'll ask her, because I think that failure is the only way to grow. And as you said, you're willing to, all your style has come from your own mistakes and your failures.
Yes.
Like you're willing to go into your painting and willing to make a mistake because you're willing to see how you respond to the mistake.
And sometimes in the early stages of painting, I set off and I put a few marks. I mean, there's one painting I made, I think year before last now. It's going so fast. It was called Papillon. It was one of my favourite things.
Papillon, actually.
And it started off very calmly with just a few marks, sort of slightly greyish background and a few orange marks. And it looked like, and then a little bit of turquoise in it. And then that one took me 4 months to complete. And in fact, I was working on it more or less at the same time as I started the commission. And I think while I was doing the commission, which was very Baroque, and they wanted it to be very moody and, stormy even, I learnt how to make this one work by putting a lot more dark and depth into it.
Yeah.
And then lightness. And then, so it often starts as quite pale, and then I'll throw everything at it and bring it right down, and then put light into the darkness rather than light starting off with it. Hard to say. Sorry, can't find the right words, but you know what I mean.
That's okay. I'm going to ask you one more question about the art, and then we're going to go into the more personal mindset and life advice stuff.
Yeah.
So I want to know, if you had to summarise this exhibition, how would you describe it to people?
Ooh. No,
That's a nasty question.
Well, I'm happy with it. This exhibition is sort of it's taken a sort of different turn. I think the last one I did, there was a little bit more variation, but I have been concentrating and exploring a bit of this floral abstraction, or anything to do with plants and trees and landscapes. And I hope that anyone looking at it would just get a feeling of joy and colour. And, I think I don't really like painting broody scenes or, depressing stuff. Have I ever done that? I have done a few. I sometimes do turn to making landscapes, but I often do that if I haven't painted for a little bit, because it's like a kind of art brain exercise, because when you're doing a landscape, you know what you're trying to do. You just get a grey sky, lots of clouds, lots of mood, landscapes. And then usually that sort of gets me going. So those are probably the only sort of dark grey, because I do like painting a moody sky. That's yeah.
Do you think not going to art school helped you more to become the artist you are now?
Well, I think I look at other artists who have got letters behind their name, and they feel very sure of themselves. They have trained to be that, and I think I'm getting less self-apologetic about, is that the right word? About not having, because actually I think having tried to figure it out for myself has been harder than being told how to do it.
100%.
Or, given hints on which way to achieve something.
Yeah.
I think in most art schools they do leave it up to you completely.
Yeah.
But
there's influence though externally.
Yeah. So, I think I probably have read, I don't know how many hundreds of books, and I don't even have enough space for them all in my studio anymore. And there are definitely, people like Joan Mitchell and actually Serge Polyakov, when I was really abstract. I love his stuff, but also his colours, some of the sort of paler ones, beautiful. And de Kooning, those sort of people who just, they make me want to paint like them. But if I try, I can't do it. I think probably Joan Mitchell is probably the person probably I'm nearest to like, though I wouldn't ever want to copy a painting she's made. But I like the freedom of her strokes. It feels wild and free and
no, I understand that. I get that.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting. I think it's the same when you're at architecture school. I remember when I first did the first year of architecture school, I got told off for not having enough precedence in my work and relating to people who've done stuff before.
Yeah.
And that was something I'd never really thought about, having to take someone else's idea and then use it as my own.
You kind of think, well, did anybody ask Vincent who he's copying?
Well, exactly.
Where he's got his stuff from?
Exactly. And I think it's slightly...
And he didn't go to art school.
No, exactly. And I think it's actually slightly limiting having to go and reference some other people, because it's like someone's forcing you to go down a tunnel or a direction which they see a value of, but maybe you don't see a value of.
Yeah.
I mean, it's useful to know history maybe, but...
I think what I find is a lot of people in the art world, galleries and stuff, they probably show more respect to people who have been to art school.
Yes.
And, you know, I started relatively late.
Yeah.
You know, finally got around to picking up a brush. And but they're very, I think, if you wanted to really do well in the art world, and, well, anywhere, London's hard, but anywhere really is hard. I mean, I think a lot of those people, they look, and also they're always looking for new young talent.
Yeah.
Which like is quite hard when you're 60 odd, you know. It's
well, do you know what's funny is it's ironic because they look for people who are new but don't realise that probably the artists who create paintings of the most value and the most meaning are the ones who spent 40, 30 years doing it. Yeah. It's like, you know, like so the star architects on average, the average age is 70 and above.
Yeah.
Because they spent so many years learning their discipline.
Yes. And I think, and actually, I tell you what has helped me an awful lot, and it's a wonderful thing. Again, guided by Isabel. She suggested I enter a couple of competitions last year. Yeah. And to my surprise, both of the ones I entered, I won a prize. Yeah. And particularly women in art, they're really out there to help someone, and they don't care how old you are. Yeah. They just, I mean, okay, so they're sort of calling it women in art, and they are because they believe that women now, you know, don't get such a good look as men. Yeah. I mean, but they have helped push, you know, they too, I mean, they too have pushed me. I want to do more for them in that way, and I want to prove to them that I'm worthy of the prize.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So,
what does fulfilment mean to you?
A perfectly finished painting.
Love that. Great answer. How important is it to surround yourself with the right people?
Oh, absolutely. I'm very lucky. I have a very, very close family and extended close family too. And they are behind me everything I do, which is wonderful. Because if they were, I mean, there are times when David will say, not sure about that one. And then I will doubly look at it and think, yeah, he's right. Because he doesn't often say it. So when he does, you know, it's not got any legs, so you might as well.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And there are ones that, you know, he'll say, well, it's got possibilities and, you know. Yeah. So I think there were, you know, a lot of the time when I worked in interior design, a lot of people, I'd end up feeling so down at the end of the day. Yeah. You know, just, I don't know, they didn't feel like they needed to help you feel good. Yeah. Which I think I find quite important. Yeah. I like to think I'd like to make other people feel good. Yeah. Not always possible, because I'm maybe not the kind of person who's you know, open to being allowed to feel that. But
no, of course.
You know,
I think it's important to have people whose opinions you trust around you and allowing them to feel confident to give you their honest opinion. Yeah. Because a lot of people come in who you don't know as well and say, oh my God, this is amazing, this is amazing. Yeah.
And they go away and say, God, wasn't that crap?
And also, but you take it with a pinch of salt because you don't know them or trust them as much. Like everyone's going to say it's amazing when they're trying to please you and be nice, etc. And so having that honesty around you as well is very important, I think.
Yeah.
It's really, really
I mean, you know, when I'm in the middle of painting, I'll often send either the girls a picture. In fact, I sometimes send you just to get feedback. You know, what do you think? And if you say, "Oh, it's crap," well, okay. Yeah. You know, but they are, you know, people who you trust. Yeah. 100%. I do sometimes wonder the girls just like everything I do, but
they are your children, so it is their duty. Remember, but they will give you honesty as well. How long did it take for you to be happy with who you are?
Oh, crikey. Still working on that.
Work in progress.
I think when I met David, really.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He gave you the confidence to be happy?
Yeah. I mean,
that's beautiful.
If he liked me, I couldn't be that bad.
Love that. How romantic. How lovely. I think it's the most romantic thing anyone's said on this podcast. I love that. Okay, what are your drivers to success?
Oh, Lord. I'm not sure I have any.
No?
I mean,
success. What does success mean to you first then?
What's success? I would like... Success in my painting world is very much that my paintings are not thought of as rubbish, that people can see the work and the thought that goes in that. I don't know, what is my idea of success? I mean, it's not necessarily selling them, but it's like a show like this. It's important that a lot of people want to come and see them. That's a sign for me of success, that people are, interested to come and see them.
Yeah.
Not about just buying them and selling them. I mean, it's lovely to sell them. It means I can go and buy more paint and linen. But it's that people can say, oh, not bad, Rach.
Yeah, no, I like that. Okay, final 3 questions. You've nearly made it all the way through an episode.
My eyes are watering.
What's one bit of advice you'd give young artists who are looking to build a career?
If they really want to do it, stick to it. Don't play around with it. You've got
Take
to
it seriously.
It depends on how young, and it depends if your parents have a space you can paint in, because that's actually the best thing I have, is a place that I don't have to tidy it up every day. I mean, when I started, I had to do it on the dining room table, which is always a little bit tricky with 4 people to feed. Sorry, guys, you're eating in the drawing room. But I can leave things out. I don't have to clean my brushes up every day. I'll leave them in terps overnight when I'm working all the time. Give them a good clean every now and then.
Any other advice? That's it.
Buy the best.
Buy the best materials. Yeah.
Really makes a difference.
Yeah.
And prepare everything well.
Yeah. Okay.
If you can, if you can go to art school and learn how to... in fact, a very good friend of mine who's an artist showed me how to stretch. And once I'd learned, I was never going to buy a pre-stretched canvas again. Because it just feels so much more artisan as well.
Well, you're part of the process at the start.
I can build the small ones, but I do need David to help me with the big ones, because they're quite, use Russell and Chappell's exhibition sketches. They're large. They're a piece of furniture.
Yeah, no, they are. Yeah. Okay.
But I think buy the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I agree. What are the keys to succeeding and following your dreams?
Oh, goodness. Stick to it. If you have a dream,
don't give up.
Often half the problem for young people is they don't really know what they want to do. I wish I had known a bit more when I was 15 or 16, but I don't. It was different for me because I didn't have an awful lot of choice. But nowadays, I think for kids, it is easier. And if there's something you want to do, you start young. Get yourself into a good school, but at least just to put you on the right road. And research. Go to as many exhibitions as you can of all kinds. You don't have to like everything, but you can appreciate everything.
Yeah, no, I get that.
And you can go and see something that's just a plain black painting one day and a riot of colour another day.
Yeah,
and
experiencing.
I can't remember his name. There was a guy, what was his name? He used to paint. His paintings just looked black, very matte black. And he used to he'd put mostly black, but he'd add blue, either cobalt or reds into it. And he'd put them in terps, I think, and let them sit for months till all the pigment had floated to the bottom.
Oh, wow.
And he'd throw away the liquid bit and he'd use the sludge on the bottom. And, oh gosh, what was his name? But I remember reading that and thinking, so every now and then I did go through a time of experiencing where I left my terps brushes, my brushes in the terps. There's always a sludge at the bottom. And it made for quite an interesting, slightly glutinous way of applying paint, because I'd mixed paint into it. But it was a bit too muddy.
Okay, final question. What's one lesson you'd like to teach or you have taught Lou and George about happiness and life?
don't let people who bring you down get too far into your life. Don't. It's quite funny when you ask that. Like, what have I taught them?
Yeah. Well, what would you like to say to them?
Be true to yourself. Don't, I remember actually Auntie Mix, you probably don't remember. Look, it's this lovely thing, and it's one thing. So be true to yourself and never feign affection. And that's probably quite a good thing to have, because 100%. If you pretend to like somebody, you're kind of stuck with them, whether you want to be with them or not.
That was brilliant. I think that's a good place to end. Well, Rachel, we have sat here for nearly 55 minutes now.
Oh my God.
We've done very well.
You've made me talk for 55 minutes.
I have. We've had a number of people walk past, looking through the windows, poking their heads through the doors. I think they're scared by the cameras a little bit, so I'm not gonna
put off the clientele.
I'm not going to put off the clientele any longer. We've done it for an hour. But I just want to thank you for coming on the Valley of Outlaws podcast. This exhibition, we have the private view tonight. How exciting.
It is, actually.
Very exciting. And
I just like breaking out all the curry rolls for everyone.
And I want to wish you all the success. Well done with this all. Thank you for coming on the Valley of Outlaws again.
Oh, my pleasure.
And
even if I was bullied into it.
You were bullied into it very badly, but it's good. It's good to try these things.
Yes, exactly. So, out of my comfort zone yet again.
Exactly. So thank you very much, and I wish you all the success of this.
Oh, thank you for asking me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much for listening to the Valley of Outlaws podcast. If you enjoyed it, please do share it with friends and family, and please see all of our news across our socials.